How's it going, guys? Welcome back to What Do You Think? It's me, Amir.
I'm Alvin.
And we're back for a new review. We just saw MaXXXine a couple days ago. We saw Early Access, and we are going to all of our thoughts. And Alvin, do you want to give them a little bit of synopsis? This is the third entry into Ty West's horror franchise starring Mia Goth. Let them know what the movie's about.
Yeah, so I will say this. You don't need to watch Pearl. So the best movie you don't need to watch because it doesn't even pertain to this part of the trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just follows Maxine Minx, and it is the fallout of what happened in X, so like the Texas massacre. So she's trying to be a star in LA, and it's just talking about like all the things that are catching up to her, all the demons are catching up to her, and she's trying to just kind of make her own name in Hollywood. And then hijinks ensue. There's a new killer, like all of that.
Yeah, so I think, like Alvin is kind of saying, this is the third entry into it. And I for sure feel like you don't need to see Pearl, but I think Pearl truly adds a lot of legitimacy to this franchise. Because as this is the third entry, I think if you were to watch this without seeing the others, it almost would dissuade me from watching the other two. Because I don't know if you guys have seen kind of the discourse that's going on around online, but this seems to be a very divisive movie. It sounds like people are either saying it's possibly the best movie of the summer or of the year already, or some people are saying it's the worst movie of the year or of the summer. And I think it sounds like Alvin and I are leaning a bit more towards the latter. I think we were both extremely disappointed in this movie, and I think it does do an interesting, cool job of like being a new decade. It's the 80s. It feels very fun in that way. So if you're a fan of how like kind of Stranger Things is like the time capsule where they give you all of the references and nostalgia to that decade, you might have a lot to enjoy here. But like Alvin is saying, Maxine Minx is, from what last time we saw her, she escaped and survived the Texas kind of chainsaw massacre from the serial killer. I don't know if we want to say who it is. Do we need to cover spoilers for those two movies? Because I guess we don't want to spoil. Don't spoil. Okay. So she survives the massacre, and now we are seeing her as she is beginning to kind of make a name for herself in Hollywood. You know, she's trying to make a name outside of being like a, I guess, exotic kind of dancer, and she gets her kind of big break into this new horror movie that is directed by, I forgot the character's name, but the actress is Elizabeth Debicki. So she is making her name for herself, and then all of a sudden this Night Stalker is kind of killing all of these people around her, these friends in her life, and it really begins to make the audience ask the question, what is happening? Is this person tied to Maxine? And this is when kind of they introduce these two cop characters, and I think the big part of why I think this movie is truly disappointing is because of how repetitive it is, where I think the easiest way to kind of break down the structure of this movie is you see Maxine's life, the serial killer kills someone close to her, cops come, say, Maxine, we need your help. I don't talk to cops, I'm not helping you. Rinse and repeat, they do that 3 times. You see Hollywood scene, person gets killed, cop asks for help. Like, I don't know if Ty West was rushed into making this movie because of how extremely popular Maxine, or X and Pearl were. And like you guys have probably seen all of the memes online of, I'm a star, I'm a star.
No, I'm a star! Please, I'm a star! I'm sorry.
And I think they were like, we have to fast track this. And that could be a possible reason. Why do you, or let them know your thoughts. I don't want to speak for you, but go ahead and let them know your thoughts.
So I think I might be in a very, very minority where I find this trilogy just, it wouldn't have any relevance if it wasn't for Pearl. I know I'm in a very, very vocal not vocal, but like I'm just in the minority because when I talk to you and Omid about it, especially Omid, he sees a lot of stuff in X that I personally don't see. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say value, but just he sees a lot of stuff that he appreciates in X, whereas for me, I didn't appreciate them. But when it came to Pearl, I think unanimously there was so much praise, and it just felt so different and disconnected. And I think even just from a behind-the-scenes standpoint, having 2 movies in the same franchise come out in the same year, months apart, filming it back to back in a different era, It's very, very cool, very interesting. I commend Ty West and Mia Goth for doing that. But when it comes to Maxine, it falls flat for me because it just, I mean, I don't know if we're going into spoilers or not, but a lot of the stuff that I do have problems with pertain to Maxine herself and just the story surrounding all of the Night Stalker stuff and kind of
I
like
think
the
I know what
killings and all that.
your criticism is for Maxine. I don't think it's a spoiler, so I think you can kind of go into it, right? You're kind of talking about like
Yeah.
her agency. I think you can kind of go into that.
Okay, yeah. So the biggest problem for me is that Maxine just doesn't, she's a very reactionary character. She does not kind of do anything in the story that kind of makes it go forward. She is kind of just, she has no agency, I suppose, where she's just kind of getting roped into it because uh she was associated with a previous thing like years ago. And they like Ty West sets up a bunch of story beats that could have been explored in this movie, but it just completely dropped. And it feels it's a 1 hour and 44-minute movie, and it feels rushed, but at the same time, it feels half
Like
baked.
nothing happened.
And yeah, like
Yeah.
we're gonna quote Omid, it's a nothing sandwich, nothing burger.
Yeah.
And to, kind of bring it back to you and me have had conversation about PS5 and Spider-Man 2, right?
Yes.
And how it it feels like there's so much going on, but it also feels like there wasn't enough time given to respect the story that it needed to tell. I feel that exact same way about Maxine, where there's so much that they could have explored, but they just don't do it, and they choose to do something else. I don't know if it's because Ty West is purposely trying to subvert expectations or not, but for me, the motivations and the story just completely missed the mark for me.
100% agree. Because to go back on your first point, you were talking about like they bring up the events that happened earlier, kind of in a couple years ago, the massacre that happens in X, and it really feels like the cops keep bringing this up, and Kevin Bacon's character keeps bringing this up, and it really has no significance aside from the reveal at the end of who the night or because night who the serial killer is, but it really felt like it was all set up just to say psych. Like it really felt like nothing of importance came because of that. And another big issue for me is a big theme or kind of arc that they want Maxine to go on is the idea of do whatever it takes to get your name in Hollywood, do whatever it takes to get ahead of the next person in front of you, right? And that's a very interesting thing, and I think the story could have very easily set that up and worked on delivering that. But because, like you're saying, Maxine doesn't do anything of true significance in this movie, that at the end, once certain things kind of transpire and they try to call back to that theme of do whatever it takes to become a star, it really has no weight to it because she doesn't do anything that kind of challenges the morality of the character or of the world around her. So, like the director, she has a great kind of relationship with Maxine where they're both saying how they kind of started off from nothing. Like, Maxine started off in porn, and she, I think the director also worked in porn, or she was saying, and that this is a really cool message where she was like, we're making an A movie theme out of a B movie. Like, this is a B movie with an A movie theme. And I was like, that is awesome. She's like, people aren't going to be expecting to kind of think out of this movie, and I want to challenge them in that way, which feels kind of like contradictory to what the movie is, ironically, where this is like an A movie with like a B movie messaging, because like the popularity is there, and I imagine the budget is much higher than the last two, and that could be because of like the sets that they use, because a big part of this movie that is kind of fun is they're shooting on the Universal lot. We get to see some iconic movie locations, and they have some really cool soundtrack or like needle drops or songs that they use. But aside from that, like it really feels completely shallow. And like you're saying, this is a very divisive one where one of my friends, he surprisingly said that this was his favorite of the three, and not that I think his opinion is wrong and ours is right. But for me personally, I think this was easily the weakest. And when we came out of the theater, I was saying this is one of the worst movies. And this is probably very hyperbolic, but I still hold it where I think this is one of the worst movies I've seen in a very long time. Where I was almost like dumbfounded by the fact, like the lack of structure in this movie. Like it just felt like a slice of life, but not in a good way. Because I love slice of life. I have the patience for it, and it felt like this was directionless for almost the entirety of the movie. And then the third act is so breakneck speed, kind of balls to the wall, where it's like I don't care about anything that's happening because of the last two acts not really kind of grounding me in it. But again, I saw people saying that they love the first two acts and the third act is what kind of lost it for them. So I'm really curious to see kind of how this plays out. And the word of mouth on it for like box office wise, I'm expecting this first weekend to be huge for MaXXXine. I don't know if we have the numbers in yet. Are you expecting the same thing? I imagine this is going to be a big hit. First
I
week at
think
least.
that, yeah, first weekend it will probably be a big hit, but I think it's it's very kind of cult following in my opinion, where I don't think X and Pearl really had too much mainstream widespread appeal. But I might be wrong because we did watch it
Not
after
in
the fact when it
theaters.
came out
Yeah.
on, not in theaters, right? We saw
Yeah.
it in digital because we heard it was good. So it's probably the word of mouth that made it more
Yes.
popular than it was when it came out. So I can actually look up the box office if you want to. Yeah, we can keep talking. I'll look it up after the fact, and then we can discuss, in another video or something. But I just think that this will be popular amongst a very specific audience, but it does not have the mainstream
I agree.
widespread appeal.
I agree because another thing that I thought is what really made um, X, but to a greater extent Pearl, really pop off is the 7-minute monologue for Mia Goth. She truly got to flex her muscles as an actor, and she had writing credit on that movie. And I think I underestimated her significance to that movie because Omid was saying that he believed she was writing this movie in partnership with Ty West. The moment we saw the beginning of the movie, they go through the credits. Solo credit written by Ty West, written, directed, edited, which is incredible. It is so awesome that he does all three. But I got nervous once I saw, oh, whoa, she's not credited for it. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe she just kind of improv some lines and she got a writing credit for Pearl. But now I believe it is very evident that she did not write X, she did not write MaXXXine. She did write Pearl. And I think she is the reason why Pearl is such a deep dive character study for Pearl versus this. It felt very surface level, and she didn't really get to have any great standout moments. I don't know the other actor's name offhand, but she had a friend that worked at the video store. I thought he was incredible. He was probably one of the standouts for me, where it felt very fun, like a classic horror movie where you're like, all right, just please survive this scene. Okay, they're alive. They're alive. I'm happy. They feel safe. And then that was kind of nice just to see the people around her. Where I think it was weird where everyone around her kind of got to act a bit more than she did. And I don't know if maybe on a rewatch I might pick up on more nuances, but that was one thing I wanted to bring up where I think it cannot be understated her significance on the writing aspect for Pearl, and I think that is why it truly stands out amongst the three, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree. It kind of, just hearing you talk about that makes me wonder, does she like playing the character of Pearl more than Maxine, to the
Hmm.
point where she wanted to contribute to the story of that character? Because I guess we're going into spoilers now for X specifically. She plays Pearl in that movie,
Yes.
and she plays off of herself when she plays Maxine. And I don't know, that's a really, really good kind of topic you brought up, Amir. So I guess let me ask you this. Would you see a fourth movie in this franchise if it focuses on Pearl? Because we know, based off of that first Pearl movie, Howard went to both World War One and World War Two. We only saw
Mm.
World War One. Would you want to see what happens to Pearl when Howard goes to World War Two?
That can be interesting because I was just thinking about as you were talking, like you're saying, does Mia Goth like playing Maxine more than Pearl? I think 100%. Because now that I'm thinking about Maxine, even at the end of X, both you and I were like, Maxine was like the most boring character out of all of the survivors. Like Jenna Ortega's character was much cooler. The other characters were much cooler. Maxine really had no sauce, and I think that is evident in Maxine as well. So I do think I would actually enjoy seeing another story from Pearl. But then again, I would be a little worried in the sense of like they're now kind of double dipping from that well, where it's all right. You're just going back to the comfort and the popularity of a character that you had versus like I think you don't need to watch X to love Pearl, but I think Pearl enhances X. So I honestly think, for the sake of Ty West and Mia Goth, I think leave this where it is because it almost feels like all right, you're 1 for 2 out of their movies. Because same as you, X wasn't my favorite. I gave it like a 7 or 6.5. I gave Pearl a 9. This is I don't know if we're gonna go to our score just yet, but I would love to see more stories from Mia Goth and Ty West, but maybe make it a new world, a new franchise. Because if they have this great partnership and they love working together, keep doing it. Keep doing it because they're going to have a cult fan, or they already have their cult fan base. People will show up, pay for their tickets. So I guess have to say no on a World War II Pearl movie. That I think would be very interesting because, like you said, we didn't see the whole story for Pearl. We just saw the middle chapter and then the end of her book. So it would be interesting, but I guess like you said, I wouldn't be surprised that Mia Goth likes Pearl more as a character, and I think it is very evident why. Because Pearl is a much more developed, flawed character where I'm like, I don't know what makes MaXXXine tick aside from like wanting to be a movie actress and she has like a cocaine addiction. Uh-oh. It looks like it kind of cut out.
Yeah,
How much
cut
did
out.
you miss? Was it just like the last thing I said, right?
It cut out when were talking about you wouldn't want to watch a Pearl sequel because we're looking at the middle of Pearl's life and the very end, and then it cut off.
Oh, okay, so did you see how I was saying she's a much more interesting character, or no?
You can kind of gather that from what we talked about, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just quickly go back into that, and then we can go into reviews and then cut off the video, or close out the video.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like I was saying, I'm not surprised that Mia Goth likes to portray Pearl more as a character, because I think Pearl is a much more interesting character, where when I think about MaXXXine, I truly don't think we can kind of say what makes that character tick, aside from her wanting to be a famous actress, and she has like a cocaine addiction that like they don't even really have any significance in the movie, because I think in X she's addicted to cocaine. She's still doing cocaine here, and then Pearl was addicted. I think Omi said it was morphine. So that was like I guess a parallel to the two, but they carried that through in this movie, and it really felt like it had no significance aside from the fact that hey, it's the '80s. You're in Hollywood. You're doing cocaine. Other than that. But yeah, I think we kind of went into our thoughts out of MaXXXine. If you have seen the movie, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Alvin, give them your score. You go out of 5.
Oh, out of 5, yes, correct. This will be pretty brutal. This will be probably one of the lowest scores I've given a movie on the channel. I give it a 2 out of 5.
Ooh.
2 out of 5.
You heard it here first. Alvin gives it a 2 out of 5. My score, as you guys know, is out of a 10 rating, and not surprised. I think me and Alvin are aligned on it. I give it a 4 out of 10. I think it is a below average movie. Extremely disappointed, and I really would have wanted more out of it. This was, I think, one of the most anticipated movies of the year for both of us, but in particularly Omid. This was his most hyped movie aside from Deadpool and Wolverine. So I know this movie was very painful for him. But that's our score. I don't know if you guys are agreeing with it if you've seen it. I've seen on Letterboxd it ranging from like people giving it a 5 out of 10, a 5 out of 5, and even a 1 out of 5. So it seems like this movie is very much a flip of a coin whether you like it or not. And if you loved it, I'm very happy that you did. Please let us know your favorite moments in it, and let us know your favorite in the trilogy. I think both of us, we said it was Pearl unanimously. So please let us know. Anything else, Alvin, before we close it off?
I don't really have too much, I guess. To quote you, this movie had no truth.
No truth and no sauce. I feel like even just visually, cinematography wasn't as impactful as the other two. But those are our thoughts, guys. You know, we were very happy that we were able to see it early. We saw it on Wednesday night. We saw it at Point of Hills AMC, and it was a great night hanging out and watching the movie. And we're gonna be doing more reviews, getting back on the horse, as Peter says, and just make more content for you guys. So keep it locked on the channel. Subscribe if you're new. If you like the video, go ahead and smash the like button. It's been me, Amir.
I'm Alvin.
Have a great one, guys. See you next time.
Yeah. Bye.